Welcome back to Think, the podcast with me, Dylan Schreibman. I'm so happy that you are here. To my LGBT plus community, this is a safe space, so go ahead and take a moment, take a seat with me, and I'm glad to have you as part of the conversation. This is episode 13. Today's topic that we're thinking about, LGBTQ plus rights and what's going on in the country right now. Let's get into it. Welcome back. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I know I say that all the time, but I really am grateful that you're here, especially for today's topic. If you showed up for today's topic, I could not be more grateful because it shows that you are either a part of the LGBT plus community or an ally showing support to what's going on in the country right now. And for that, I cannot be more grateful that you want to be part of the fight. So I'm sending you my gratitude and my love. And I'm reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get an episode each Tuesday and we can continue to have this conversation. Before we begin, I do want to go over a few orders of business with you. I always said I would keep it real on this channel and keep it 100 with you on this channel. The first order of business is my microphone has decided not to work this morning. And so we are having some technical issues, but we are going to roll with it. I know most people at this point would just put the microphone up and fake like it's working. I'm not that person. I told you I was going to be real at all times, and I want you to really be a part of this experience and a part of this conversation. So that's how my morning has started. But we are going to be grateful for the audio we have and the setup that we have, and we are going to continue to keep rolling. Second order of business is I was actually not going to tape this week. I was tempted to take a break and a hiatus from this podcast. I really mean it when I say I want you to be a part of the conversation and I want you to go on this journey with me. I began this podcast to create a safe space for so many people that when they walk out into the world, they don't feel like they have that safe space, especially in this political climate. I created this podcast being a part of the LGBT plus community and knowing what it feels like to take so long to discover that you're a part of the LGBT plus community. That said, I wanted to give my community a safe space, a space where they feel like they could come and have a conversation or just sit for a moment in a world that feels so heavy. And for that reason, something in me was telling me to take a break and take a hiatus. And maybe this wasn't meant for me to begin at this moment. And then when I showed up to tape this morning and the microphone wasn't working, I really took that as a sign of maybe this is the time to take a break. However, something in me is telling me not to give up. Something is pulling me to keep going, and I want to follow that gut feeling. I thought about beginning this podcast at the beginning of 2024. That's how long it's been, and it took me a year to actually get the courage to begin it. I have always dreamed about doing a podcast on my own. That way I can share what I want to share and be the voice that I want to be and be the safe space that I want to create. I don't want to get too emotional, so I'm holding the emotions in. But when I said in a very early episode that this podcast is very scary for me to do, I meant it. It is the scariest thing I've ever taken on career-wise because I don't know what's at the end of the journey. I don't know if this podcast is going to be successful or not. I have, speaking from a real place of mind, I have attempted to do creative projects like this before and they haven't worked out the way that I wanted them to, or they haven't stuck out for the duration that I wanted them to, which led me to do a creative project on my own. The scariest part for me at the moment, I don't want to take on another project that doesn't have the angle that I expect, if that makes sense, or doesn't have the success that I really want it to. But then I thought, Dylan, I'm so proud to be a part of the LGBT plus community, and there is nothing I want more than to stand up for my community in a time of need. We are being attacked by the current administration, and I don't use that word lightly, but if you go back to episode 3, you can find out how we are being attacked in this time and how the president and his current administration is taking steps to take our rights away. Rights we deserve for just existing. Rights we shouldn't have to do anything extra for. Whether that be through executive orders, whether that be taking resources down for websites, whether that be attacking our right to marriage, whether that be in Project 2025 attacking our rights to adopt children as gay couples. There's a lot. And he's already followed the landscape and the pathway of Project 2025 in this current administration. And that Project 2025 does hold the removal or the illegality of gay couples adopting children. One of the reasons for doing this episode, and we can call it an emergency episode, is what has gone on this week, and it has impacted the youth of my community, something that I will not stand for. If you haven't been following the news this week, the president wants to remove the LGBT plus youth hotline. From what I gather from his followers blowing up my threads, it is because we don't deserve special treatment, and it is a government waste that he is trying to get rid of. I don't agree with that. I want to begin by saying that that is just what people have replied to me and said. To me, and I've said this on the internet already, I've said this on my TikTok already, the LGBT plus youth hotline is extremely necessary. It is something that we need to exist. It is not a special treatment kind of thing, it is a comfort kind of thing. This hotline does not exist to give us special treatment. This hotline exists to make people in my community comfortable. You may not understand this if you aren't a part of the LGBT plus community, but when it comes to getting help in certain fashions, it is more comfortable for us to go to resources that are advertised and ran by people in the LGBT plus community. Whether that be a hotline, whether that be you're looking for a doctor to go to, whether that be you're looking for a therapist to go to take care of your mental health, whatever it is something that is more comfortable for us to go to somebody who is either in the community or it is advertised towards our community. It is not for quote unquote special treatment. Like I said, it's for comfort. It's for comfortability knowing that the people on the other end of the line or the people that you're going to the appointment for understand what you are going through. There are certain things that are different when it comes to LGBT plus health, and that includes mental health. It makes us more comfortable when we're able to go to resources that are exclusively for our community. All I ask is that you may not understand it, but please show some empathy. It's about showing up for people. What I'm also getting through reaction online is they claim that it is government waste. It is not government waste to save somebody's life. It is not government waste to keep a hotline that may help save somebody's life. This is somebody's child you're talking about. This is somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's child. If that person is able to get help through a comfortable hotline and that saves their life, I will take that hotline being in place every single day of the week. I do not want families to have to experience the pain or the loss of losing a child because there is a hotline taken away from them that could have saved their life. Nearly 2 million LGBT plus youth thought about committing suicide on a serious level last year. That is 1 in every 45 seconds. LGBT plus youth are 4 times more likely than their peers to think about committing suicide. To me, keeping a hotline to help prevent that is not a waste of time. It makes me really, really upset that people want to take away resources that can help save somebody's life. To me, it says one thing. The president wants to take away this hotline, the LGBT plus youth hotline, because he does not want us to exist. He does not want our community to exist. He has shown that since day one, well, even before, but we'll just go from day one of this second administration. Through executive orders, through taking resources down off of websites, through now 9 states in a conservative-like Congress have asked for the repeal of gay marriage. I also do want to say it really pains me that this hotline is even up for debate, as it has to do with our youth. The fact that we are even thinking about hurting our children, hurting our youth in a capacity really upsets me. The fact that we are even thinking about taking away a resource for children and youth who are struggling really upsets me. The fact that people even support this and chalk it up to money and budget over somebody's personal health and well-being really upsets me. Sometimes I wish he and his administration would look more in this situation at this has something to do with somebody's personal health, somebody's mental health, somebody's well-being over a bunch of numbers. Children and youth in the LGBT+ community deserve a bright future. They do not deserve the current landscape that we are growing up in. They deserve to feel safe. I really wish I can look back, and I will fight every single day for this. I really wish I could look back. I'm praying that I can look back in 10 or 15 years and saying, our generation walked so they can run. Our generation fought so they can have the freedoms that they deserve. And I know some of the argument is going to be, well, if you don't teach children about gay culture, they'll never know it exists, or they won't know to be that way because they won't know as a child that the exposure of it. Wrong. I said this a few episodes back. Being gay is not a choice. Being a part of the LGBT+ community in all facets is not a choice. It's who we are. That means we should give kids exposure to the community, because if your kid is straight and when they get older they date and identify as straight, being exposed to anything in the LGBT community is not going to change that. But if your kid does identify as a part of the LGBT community, first of all, welcome. I'm so happy for you. It will only help them be more comfortable due to the exposure, which makes them feel safe seeing somebody grown up that identifies like them. I wish when I was younger, I was exposed to more people in the LGBT community, whether that be through real life experience, whether that be through movies, whether that be through books, whether that be through TV shows, whether that be through drag shows, whatever it is. I was not exposed as a child to the LGBT community. Maybe it was because it wasn't as mainstream to put couples in our community on television or in books. The world just wasn't set up in that way at the time, which is unfortunate. Maybe it's because of the climate I grew up in, and I grew up in a very small town, which does not think that way, or many don't accept the lifestyle. I grew up in a safe home. I'm not saying I didn't grow up in a safe home. I don't want to put that out on the internet. But the one thing I do wish is that I did have more exposure. Maybe it wouldn't have taken me so long to have the bravery and the courage to come out as who I really am. If I did have that exposure to a drag queen coming to read a book to me in elementary school, or I saw a movie on the TV with two gay men as the lead, maybe I would have felt more comfortable and brave to come out at an earlier age. And now I look back and question the fact of why I didn't come out to my mid 20s. And that's something that I'm learning to accept. And I don't honestly know if hiding myself or suppressing myself for so long is something I will ever accept. I am really glad and grateful that there is more examples of LGBT plus couples on TV today. I'm really grateful that there are drag queens going to elementary schools to expose children to gay culture. I'm really grateful that there are more books with characters in it, or social media. One positive thing about it is the presence of it now exposes people to the LGBT plus culture in a way that it did not before. I'm hoping that a child, a teenager, comes across one of those movies or sees one of those drag queens or reads one of those books or scrolls across a post on social media, and that leads them to the bravery of living their authentic life. I really do hope that. I'm just disappointed that the president would even consider taking an action of removing a hotline that is beneficial to so many kids who did have the bravery to come out and maybe are struggling with it and need a place to call because they don't think somebody else would understand, or it is their last resort, so they pick up the phone and call. I just question why you would take that away from somebody. Why you would take that help away from somebody is really baffling to me. Another reason I wanted to do this emergency episode this week is another thing happened where it could impact the youth of America, and it has to do with the Supreme Court. I'm taking it from NBC News, and I kind of just want to read because I don't want to give any false information. According to NBC News, the Supreme Court on Tuesday, and this article was written on April 22nd, the Supreme Court on Tuesday appeared likely to rule for parents in Maryland who objected on religious grounds to books made available in a school's district, elementary schools that feature stories about gay and transgender characters. Members of the 6-3 conservative majority, which often backs religious rights, seemed sympathetic during the lively 2.5-hour oral argument towards the parents' claims that the Montgomery County Board of Education violated their religious rights by failing to provide an opt-out for their children. First of all, I want to begin by saying you have the right to believe in whatever religion you believe in. You have the right to believe in whatever faith you believe in. I am a person, I've said this before, I'm a person, I'm never going to push my faith. I believe in God, but I'm never going to push my faith on anybody. I'm really tired of people using religious arguments against the LGBT plus community. To me, they only use it when they want to come after our community in a way that we shouldn't have rights, or we shouldn't exist, or we shouldn't be allowed to be married. That makes me really upset because, first of all, it has nothing to do with you. Being gay, again, back to what I said earlier, being gay is not a choice, it's who we are. So God created us in that fashion. So I would hope you would express a little bit more empathy and be less judgmental just because of somebody's sexual orientation or how they identify. Back to the ruling that is most likely to, I don't know if it has officially gone across, but I'm just going off of what the article says, and it's most likely to, again, if your child identifies as straight, reading a book that involves two gay characters or a transgender character is not going to make your child that way. It's not a choice, it's who we are. But reading books like that will help children who are a part of my community. And again, I know people are going to say it's an opt out, it's not a full ban, or, you as a parent get the choice. I have difficulty with that because to me, this is the beginning of going towards that direction. This is the beginning of saying, if I don't agree with something, I'm not going to send my kid to school. Elena Kagan, who's another justice, said she was wondering whether a ruling for the parents would lead to an increase in religious objections and in some situations lead schools to abandon some aspects of the curriculum altogether because of the difficulty of providing opt-outs. To me, this is, and I'm just going to be blunt, to me, this is saying I don't want my kid to know about the LGBT plus lifestyle, or I don't want my kid to ever be a part of that. And I have difficulty with this just because at some point, your child is going to be exposed to somebody who was a part of the community. That's just most likely to happen. And this goes back to the argument of homophobia is taught. Being homophobic is taught. So if you have the option to expose your kid to love and kindness and acceptance and not judge people at an early age, why aren't you taking that option? It also upsets me because you have no problem reading books with straight characters, but all of a sudden you have a problem reading books because two characters are gay or transgender. That's just hateful to me. And I'm still waiting for people to tell me the harm of exposing children to LGBT plus culture. Is again maybe blunt, but to me it's just homophobic. And it's interesting because obviously I'm born in Maryland and I'm from Maryland, so it's really hitting home as part of my experience in life has been in this state. It's not a good look. I hate that it's from Maryland and that there's schools in Maryland that don't want to teach children LGBT plus culture. That's really annoying to me. To me, it just looks like a step to silence the LGBT plus community and a step to attempt to erase our existence. That's how it comes across to me. You would think that people would use their freedom of religion in a kind way and use their freedom of religion not to be judgmental and to let people live the way that, they were born. I guess that's just not the state of our country, which is really deeply upsetting. Well, and with this, and then I'll give the other side of the argument because I don't want to just give what, the justices who voted against it said. But the exposure to gay or transgender people in books will never hurt a straight person. It will only hurt the kids who are part of the LGBT plus community because they don't see people who identify like them. And that is coming from somebody who did not see that as a child and wishes that I was exposed to that as a child. And I know I keep saying that over and over again throughout the duration of the episodes of this podcast. And I will keep saying that over and over again because it is important. And it is, as someone who wasn't able to get that exposure that I desperately needed, I do not want any other child not to get that exposure that they desperately need. It says that other conservative justices expressed a disbelief that the school board found it too difficult to provide an opt out. I do want to say these are part of the arguments. The article says Chief Justice John Roberts seemed skeptical of the school board's argument that the policy did not require the children to affirm or support the content of the books. And then he asked, quote, is this a realistic concept when you were talking about a 5-year-old? Justice Amy Coney Barrett said the content of the books appeared to be presenting children with more than just neutral facts about the existence of the LGBTQ plus people in society. That I don't understand because the books are about, I want to go back up. The two books that are in the article are Uncle Bobby's Wedding, features a gay character who is getting married, and another who is about a transgender child who wants to identify as a boy. How is that more than the neutral existence of the LGBT plus community? That's just seems like you don't like the community and seems like you hate the community, in my opinion, because that is the experience of the community. I don't understand how you're saying it's more than the neutral existence of the community, because that is the experience of the LGBT community. When people identify as trans, that is their experience. When people identify as a part of the community and want to get married, for example, Uncle Bobby's Wedding features a gay character who is getting married, that is their experience in life. For example, somebody who is gay like myself, I want to get married and I want to marry a man because that's who I am attracted to and that's how I was born. How is that more than a neutral experience? That is just a life experience, in my opinion. So I don't understand that argument. Sorry, Amy. It just, again, it just seems hateful and homophobic and discriminatory, in my opinion. Children being exposed to gay culture, there is no issue. For you not to believe that your children should be exposed to LGBT plus culture, to me, is the issue, because that's the discriminatory and hateful rhetoric versus the other side of us in the culture. There's nothing hateful about it, or we're not taking a hateful stance. We just want to be able to exist and enjoy our life and have rights like everybody else. I don't understand. It is called the for or against argument for a reason. And to me, I just can't fathom waking up every single day and choosing the side of being against anybody. This is more expansive than the gay culture, but anybody having human rights. I still will not understand that. You're telling me if you're part of the against camp and part of the camp that believes in the opt out and your children not being exposed to gay culture, if your child came to you and told you that they were a part of the LGBT plus community in some capacity, you would disown them. You would negate yourself the life experience that you would get to have with the child that you love so much before they came to you and came out in whatever capacity. You would rob yourself of that life experience just because your child identifies as a part of the community that, and they still love you and they want a relationship with you. That I have a hard time understanding. How you would rob yourself of that experience with your child, how you would give up so many memories that you could have with your child. And I think sometimes it does take personal experience to change people's minds and to, again, exposure to change people's minds and realize, oh, now this actually has something to do with you. I think there could be a privilege before of you're not really exposed to it, or you don't have to deal with, or you aren't exposed to anybody in the culture. But then when it happens to you, some people will be like, oh, now I changed my mind because I want to have a relationship with my child. Some people won't, which I don't understand. But that's why I tell people, just think of if somebody you deeply care about were to come out to you in some capacity, you would give up your relationship with that person. That shows you just don't care for them and shows that you're the problem, not the person who came to you looking for support and acceptance. I do want to wrap this up, but again, thank you for joining me on this emergency episode on another episode. I do appreciate you, especially if you joined me for this episode, because it's really important to what's going on in the world right now, and it shows that you support us in the fight that is going on right now. So I am really, really grateful for that. And if you don't support me and you're watching this, or if you don't support the community and you're watching this just to be a hater, please go somewhere else. I'll see you next time.